What you really need to figure out is what is your patient distribution on your different networks? Which are the hardest networks for your team to deal with? Which ones have the highest adjustment percentages?
I dropped the PPOs and I had so many good patients that were willing to pay money that it was just kind of easy. I just kind of cut it. But I don't feel that like that's everybody's situation, right? I think there's certain markets with certain offices that it does go that way. Because I also talked to a lot of other people who were like, Gary, I went out of network and then I didn't have a lot of patients and it was just like a ghost town. Welcome back to another episode of Dental Marketing Theory. I'm your host, Gary Bird. I'm the owner of SMC National, where we help offices just like yours level the playing field against the big guys out there so you can grow the way that you want. But you can't grow if you're in network with insurances and they're not paying you for the treatments that you're getting done. And today I have a special guest, Susan, who's the CEO of Dental Coaches, and she specializes in helping practices go out of network and how to do it strategically, wisely, and she gives us the 5 steps that she goes through with her clients. I promise you are going to learn some things from this, and you're going to save yourself a lot of pain and heartache. So stay tuned for this one. It's a great episode. All right, we are live, and I'm excited about this conversation because this is probably the number one thing that ticks off dentists. Painful conversation to have. It affects marketing. It affects your team. It affects your hygienist. It affects the doctor. It affects how much money you make. And it probably just affects your general well-being overall. And it's about going out of network. And I'm excited to have Suzanne here today. And I want to kick off the conversation right off the bat with when is the right time to start going out of network with PPOs?
It's a great question, Gary. And it varies for many, many different dentists. What you really need to figure out is what is your patient distribution on your different networks? Which are the hardest networks for your team to deal with? Which ones have the highest adjustment percentages? And how, if you really make that mindset shift that I'm going to be out of network, what does that need to look like with a plan and a strategy, with the patient communication, with the team mindset, with marketing for new patients, and with how to, just how to navigate that whole process?
Yeah, I know you like to do a 9 to 12 month transition plan. So I want to jump into that and kind of the steps through that. I think that would be helpful to the audience. But I wanted to bring up one thing that I see a lot is I see doctors who want to do this and they're scared to do it. But then I also see a lot of doctors who've done it successfully kind of on their own. And I've actually been called out on this quite a few times online where they'll say things like, you know what, Gary, and they're great doctors and I believe them, they're right. But I'm interested in your thoughts. They say, you know what, Gary, for me, I dropped patients. I didn't have to market more. I didn't have to do anything. I dropped the PPOs and I had so many good patients that were willing to pay money that it was just kind of easy. I just kind of cut it. But I don't feel that like that's everybody's situation, right? I think there's certain markets with certain offices that it does go that way. Because I also talked to a lot of other people who were like, Gary, I went out of network and then I didn't have a lot of patients and it was just like a ghost town. And it got really, really scary and I had to add insurances back in. So I've heard both sides of that. What's the truth of that? Is it just really, truly every single practice is different? Or where do you kind of fall on the spectrum of?
Well, I think you need to really understand your active patient-based numbers and have to really understand your supply and demand for hygiene, and how well you're getting patients in the door and how well you're converting patients. And the thing that I've found, and any client that I've taken out of network has never regretted it, has never gone back, has always said, I wish I did this sooner. And there has to be, the numbers matter. And many times they can lose patients and they'll be surprised by the number of patients that stay, number of patients that leave and come back because they don't like an experience in network somewhere else. So you have to have a pretty robust, active patient base to not do any marketing, but you got to track and you got to know, right, where your patients are coming from. And is your referral sources getting entered in? If people are finding you just from insurance networks and that's all they're focused on, or if your area is not growing by population. So a lot of different things come into play, with that. But
It's like, so it is, every office is going to be different, and it's going to be a different approach for each office is what I'm hearing you. So, okay. So first you got to audit your numbers in this 9 to 12 month plan is what I hear you saying. And then from there you have internal prep. So align the team with your vision. What does that mean exactly?
So to be able to share with the team, why are you doing this? Why is this important? And how are we going to communicate this to our patients? And how do we communicate it in a confident way? And I've had offices say, okay, we want to have conversations with our patients. And we're having even clinical team members start the conversation.
And like, how does that look and sound? Like, pretend I'm a patient, like, conversation with me.
So Gary, want to tell you about an upcoming change with our relationship with Delta Dental, your dental plan. So the next time you come in, we're going to be an unrestricted provider with that plan. And here's what that means. We're going to be out of their contracted network, and we're going to be utilizing your out-of-network benefits. And we are going to be estimating what we believe, your plan will pay. We won't know exactly till we get back, but we'll be able to tell you that, for your preventative care, oftentimes it's very, very close, the out-of-network benefits to the in-network benefits. And here's what you can expect. Your, hygiene visits going to include bite wing x-rays, exam, preventative cleaning. That's going to be around $220. And we're going to ask you to take care of that at your visit. And we're going to submit all the paperwork for you. And Delta is going to mail you a check directly.
So that's actually a good point. So I want to talk through that. So not everybody does. One thing that I've learned over time is, like, when you say fee for service, there's like 5 different kinds of fee for service offices, right? So like, there's like the true fee for service office, which is like, we're in network with no one and we bill to no one. You do that. And that's like what you're talking about right now. But then there's also offices that bill, they're all out of network, and then they bill to the insurance for you. That's a different kind of like structure, right? And then there's some people who are in out of network, they bill to the insurance, but they're in network with some insurances, right? And then there's different flavors as well. Did I get those about right? Is that kind of like the different?
Yes. I will say that all of the clients that we coach are doing the paperwork for the patients, but they have different ways of collecting. So some insurance companies, some Delta plans, if you're out of network, they'll mail the check to the patient. They won't mail it to the practice, so you have to really kind of get clear with the patients up front. You don't want to have to go chase that, right? You don't want to have to say, okay, when you get the check from Delta, we'll bill you or pay.
Know the rules of that game before you even get started.
What you want to do. And some offices will say, you know what, we're going to just ask the patient for payment for their portion, and we're going to accept the insurance check. So some insurance companies out of network will send the check to the office, and they'll try to maybe like underestimate what they think the payment's going to be, so that there's no surprises, right? Oh, good news, Gary, you have a $50 credit on your account. Would you like us to mail you a check, or do you want to keep it on your account for future work? Your plan paid more. So, but it's all about managing expectations, right? And being really clear and confident, and getting patients to kind of understand that we can't provide the level of care at these contracted rates. And some patients really get it, and some patients will say, you know what, it's just really important to me that my insurance pays, and they're going to stick with that provider. And that's okay. That's going to be their choice. We can't be everybody's dentist. So, but getting really clear with how you're going to be taking care of payment, because I've seen offices run into trouble if they don't have a good system for collections, and they go out of network and we didn't know the checks were going to go to the patients. And
getting really clear, that's so important. And I want to move on to the next topic, improving case acceptance. But before we do, on the internal prep, one of the things that I've seen is when offices do this, typically they don't work with their front desk on new patient communication. And so what happens is someone calls in and they're like, hey, yeah, I want to come in. And they go, oh, what insurance do you have? And they're like, or do you have insurance? Yeah, we do. Well, we're not in network with anybody, and we don't take any insurances. And so you lose every single new patient, right? Like, you lose almost every single one of them, because they're like, oh, you scare them how do you kind of prep the teams for that one? Like, how do you deal with that internally?
When that question comes up, it's always really good to kind of understand where is the patient with this plan. Have you used this plan before? Is this a new plan? A lot of them are just getting insurance and they really don't understand how dental insurance works. So they think it's going to be just like their medical insurance. So you have to kind of see where the patient's at and, really kind of ask them, Gary, besides, we really coach connecting with the patient on the phone, getting their name, finding out what's important to them, finding out why they're calling, create positive statements for the practice. And then really, I know being in an insurance network is important to you, but what else is important to you when it comes to your dental care?
Do you think about things like little statements like, and these are things that I've seen people do very successfully is like, and it doesn't work for everybody, but it does work for some people. Is like, oh yeah, we bill to all PPOs, right? Like, and so someone calls in. Now that doesn't work if someone calls in and they're like leading with, "Are you a network?" or da 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 da. But if they ask, "Hey, do you take ABC dental insurance?" It's like, is it a PPO? Yeah. Okay, great. We build all PPOs and we're happy to do a benefits check for you before you come in, something like that. And then another one that I've heard is, oh yeah, we have lots of patients, happy patients that come here without insurance, ABC insurance, right? That doesn't work for Medicaid and different things like that if you don't take those, but it works for a big chunk of insurances. What do you think about those?
Well, we don't want to mislead our patients, right? We don't want them to think that, we don't want to be a blanket statement of, we're not a network and we can bill to all PPOs. We want to get really clear, and I want them also to understand that we have a lot of patients on that plan, that come here. And sometimes patients will call or they'll have some new plan and guess what? Nobody takes it. If you can't find someone who's in that network, and what else do we have for, payment options for patients and really kind of finding out where they're at. Are they afraid of the dentist? Have they had bad experiences? What's really important to them? And really creating an experience on that phone that we're going to take great care of you. We can get you in right away to get you out of pain. Is that the only way you can pay for treatment? Because we do have other payment options. And, your dental insurance is really a benefit plan. It's limited and restrictive and it's a coupon. And, and I know how you feel. We wish plans were different.
So you got to make the insurance the bad guy in that situation because it's typically setting the patient up for success. Okay, so let's talk about improving case acceptance, and this is a huge one because most dental offices, even though dentists all complain about insurances, but the thing that most dentists miss about this is they actually lean on dental insurances pretty heavily to help them sell treatment. And I've seen it over and over again personally as a patient, and I've seen it in the numbers where the office is like, "Oh, I hate these insurances," but then the patient comes in and they're like, first question is, what insurance do you have? And then first, oh, you have these benefits so you can get this work done. But what you're actually doing is you're training them you're really treating the insurance. You're not treating the patient. So how do you help the offices kind of break free? It's almost like a drug, right? Like, how do you help them break free of that from a treatment acceptance standpoint?
Well, we work with, I've created what I like to call a case agreement system. How do we get our patients to agree to treatment rather than accept it? And I believe it's a whole team effort. It's not just the admin person at the front desk, like what is the clinical team's role in getting patients to understand why they need treatment? How do we future pace them? How do we scare them a little? And we're not too easygoing, with them. And we have these communication style profiles. They're a survey that we send to the dentist, and we have profiles of high producing dentists and what their communication style has to be, because too many times they're too easygoing and too non-dominant, and they're not really letting the patients understand what could happen when they don't move forward with treatment. What is that going to look like, and why should the patient do it now? And if they're not doing it now, really what's holding them back? And do we have flexible payment options for them with third-party financing so that we can lower the barrier to care? And, we believe everyone should be able to afford care. What could you afford?
Other one, it's so amazing to me that so many dentists still don't have patient financing. And I know why they don't, because it's like, well, they charge me a fee, you know what I mean? And it's like, if you're gonna go, pick your poison, right? You want to be leave these insurances, you gotta have patient financing. That's such a good point.
Right. And so many times too, if someone doesn't know you or how they're going to be treated, you've got to start them off, right? Like do a little bit of work. Oh, that wasn't so bad. That was a really pain-free injection. Like, oh, now I want to do the other side. Now I want to do more. And some people don't have that option, but you have to think of all the different things that could get a patient to say no, and how can we help them? How can we help them get healthy? Like, I believe everyone should be able to have a healthy smile, be chewing confidently. And you've just got to really believe that. And then you need to remind your team of all the great lives you've changed and all the great stories and patient experiences. Because every office is going to have the complainers, but then every office is going to have the people who are thrilled.
Yes, that's so true. And the thing that I always have to remind dentists of, because there's all these different things you have to do for marketing to make this all work, and is that you don't make rules for the group based on the complainers, because the complainers are like the 5%ers, right? There's like 5% of people out there are just crazy and they're going to be a pain in the rear end no matter what. And this is true for dentists too. Like in my company, we have complainers and people who come in and we're just not able to make them happy, but I don't go and punish the other 95% of my clients with, well, now we got to put all these rules in for them to protect us. It's like, no, just try to not have the crazy people. And when you figure it out. So I love that. That's a great point. Now, moving on to the next point, strengthening patient retention. So how does someone have to think through that?
Well, I think it's important that we can greet our patients by using their name. We have pictures of them in their records so that we know who they are, and that we have somewhere documented some personal information about them, right? So people will buy and trust from people that they like, and we want to be able to form a connection. Humans are social people. Oh, you remember that I'm taking a trip to Florida last month, or you remember that my mother was sick and I was caring for her and I was stressed out. That means so much. We don't want to go down a huge rabbit hole of their personal life, but we want them to feel and we want them to know we care, and if can be, some type of person that connects with them on a personal level, or some kind of, you like dogs, Gary, I love dogs, I have a dog, people like that. They feel more comfortable when they're connected. So that's going to help. And then booking the next visit always helps. Everyone should have a next visit, whether it's a hygiene visit or restorative visit or both. Do we have a good system for tracking all of that? And if people fall out of the schedule, how are we going back in and, getting them back into the schedule? And if they're, are we too easygoing when they're trying to reschedule? How are we handling those calls? Oh, we had an hour set aside for you, Gary, today in Susan's schedule. Is there anything I can personally do to save this appointment? It's going to be a while before we can get you back in. Like how are all those things handled? There's like no silver bullet there, I think, in retention, but it's a lot of things to consider. I love membership plans. So I've helped practices create membership plans. I think membership plans are great. I think they should be set up in a way that makes sense for the practice as well. And I think the doctor, the owner of the practice, has to be really comfortable offering it to people who don't have insurance. Like, I don't like saying, well, the new people can get it, but the existing people can't, or then the team gets confused. Well, who gets it? Who doesn't get it? They got to be happy with it, right? They've got to be able to not be complaining about it. But I think every practice should have a membership plan for those uninsured patients who think, I need insurance to go somewhere. Okay, this is better than insurance. There's no waiting periods. There's no maximums. So I'm a big believer in membership plans.
That's great. Okay, so last point is marketing shift. So now you have to rethink how you're marketing yourself, how you're getting your name out there. Because a lot of people, to be honest with you, just that do this, a lot of them aren't marketing, right? And that's a big undertaking to go from non-marketing to marketing. What are your thoughts there?
So many dentists who are in network are only maybe spending 1% to 2% of their budget on marketing. And the dentists that we coach that are moving out of network, either partially or completely, we have both, are spending anywhere upwards from 3% to 8% on marketing. But we're We're tracking phone calls. We're tracking where they're coming from. We're watching our Google reviews. Google reviews huge. All of that stuff is huge.
Yeah, before anybody has a heart attack, because I know all of the dentists are now doing 8% of X amount of dollars, and they're like, "How am I going to do that?" Think of it this way: you are paying for marketing through your insurances right now, and you're writing that down. And so the difference that you're writing down on those patients, that's your marketing budget for those patients because they came to you because of the insurance. So you're already paying a ton of money. This is actually a cost savings, even at 7%, 8%. When you add it all up, this is actually going to be cheaper than accepting insurances. So I just wanted to talk everybody off the cliff there.
Oh, definitely. It's much less than your adjustment rates for your insurance company. And you're right, that's a form of marketing. And so absolutely.
Awesome. Well, this was really, really informative. And then this is what we just went over, those 5 steps. That is a 9 to 12 month roadmap you're doing with people. Is that right?
Yes, we really customize what we do. So it depends. Some doctors are like, I want 12 months so I can really talk to all my patients. Some are like, I'm so sick of this that I don't care if people on this plan come back or not. So it depends. It depends on how many patients are we willing to lose or how we're going to do this. So we have, a process we go through of a series of questions and a series of analyzing things and then coming up with a strategy that fits that practice. But it's like I said earlier, I've never had a practice that say I shouldn't have done this or went down. They all go up in their profitability, and it's really exciting, and it's I feel sorry for dentists who have these huge write-offs now. And what's the plan to make our patient experience better and make our practice better, and so that we can even support our teams better, right?
That's so great. I know everybody's going to want to talk to you, so I'm going to get your information in a minute. But before we do, so we don't waste the doctor's time, who can't go out of network? What kind of office is just like, it's not wise for them to go out of network, if anybody?
Well, that's a great question. So I would say, if you're gonna go out and network, have a really good sense of what you really love to do in dentistry. What's your sweet spot for your procedure? Are you a clear aligner therapy person? Are you an implant person? Are you a, all on 4 person? What is it that you really want to focus on and be really good at? And what's your future plan for your practice? Do you want to grow it to add associate doctors? Do you want to shrink it because it's too big? That type of thing. And what's your area like? Are people moving into the area, or is it going to be really hard? How competitive is it? And what do you need to face, with that? So if your practice is super small and you want to go out of network, I'd say you have to build it up. If it's under like 800 active patients or 1,000 active patients and you're working 4 days a week, let's build it up a little bit, so.
Build it up so you can cut it back. It's hard to cut it back when you have such few patients. So I hear you loud and clear. So if someone wants to reach out and learn more about what you do, how you do it, cost, doing the analysis, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
So you can book call on my website. It's dentalcoaches.com. That's how, that's the easiest way to get a hold of me, is just go to the website and book a call and we'll talk.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on today. Great episode. I know people are going to love it.
Okay. Thanks, Gary. It was really fun talking with you today.